There's like a plane. There's a plane flying over. Hello everybody, it is a nice cool January evening. I'm out here on the sun setting. It's cold and I just want to talk about some of my favorite movies I watched last year. Kind of a random video. I don't normally do stuff like this. Last time I talked to the camera, I looked like an ugly little baby. But I figured it'd be fun to just talk about my top 10 favorite movies I watched last year. I watched a lot. I don't mean movies that came out last year. They were mostly old movies. I like old movies, but I will have some honorable mentions that we'll go through here in a minute. So yeah, this is just some random thing. I didn't really take any time to set anything up. It might look a little crappy, but the sun's setting back there. Hopefully you can see that. And hopefully I'm in focus. So without further ado, I wanted to start off with some honorable mentions of movies I watched. I am going to be pulling up a list because I can't remember things for the life of me. I use a Letterboxd. You heard of Letterboxd? It's a pretty sweet app. Watch a lot of movies on there and log them. Follow me if you have Letterboxd. And I won't follow you back. Maybe. Some honorable mentions that just that I liked but just didn't make my top 10. My favorite movies my favorite movie of last year, any of them, would have to be any of the movies that Joel Haver made. He's a YouTuber who made 12 feature-length films in 12 months. It was crazy, and he did it, and it's awesome, and he's so cool. I like watching his videos. And I haven't seen them all, but I've watched a few, and any of those would be my favorite movie of last year. But this top 10 just comes in a little bit before that. I like these just a little bit more, but those were great. Recommend checking them out if you haven't already. Some a weird movie I watched was Dreams, Kurosawa's Dreams, that came out in 1990. It's the only Kurosawa movie I've seen as of now. I do own Seven Samurai and High and Low, but I have not seen those yet. Dreams was a weird movie. I really liked it. I got a group together on my birthday to go watch it, and everyone else was either very bored or fell asleep, and I felt really bad for picking that on my birthday because it was not what I thought it was going to be, but I very much enjoyed it. It's just a bunch of little vignettes thrown together, very artistic. Yeah, I mean, I just enjoyed it. It was good, but that's just honorable mention. I watched Wicked. I watched Wicked with my sister in theaters. I didn't think Wicked was that bad. I didn't think it was great, but it was good. It was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. Oh, I don't know how these didn't make it. These are really good. I watched all of the big three of James Dean's films, Giant, Rebel Without a Cause, and East of Eden. My favorite of the three was East of Eden. That was an incredible movie, very emotional. Rebel Without a Cause I watched last 2023 and I fell asleep and I couldn't even finish it. So I watched it last year and I'm glad I rewatched it and finished it because it's a very good movie. Giant was an interesting role of James Dean. He didn't play himself. He didn't play the little emotional train wreck boy. He was a little, he was kind of the same. But it was his most unique role, I think. And I think it was my favorite role to see him in. Definitely not my favorite movie of his. East of Eden was really good. But it was just interesting to see him do something different. And he was great. He was very good. Gonna start off with number 10. This is Orson Welles' Touch of Evil that came out in 1958. Wow, that was a very good movie. I'm gonna say a lot of the same stuff on this because I like these all. These are all really good, but I didn't really know what to expect going into this. I thought it was just going to be like kind of a classic film noir. A lot of ways it is, but there's a lot of interesting takes they go with it and a lot of twists. And I think it might be my favorite Orson Welles directed movie. I haven't seen too many of his, but I think I like it more than Citizen Kane. Just a little bit. They're pretty close, but Touch of Evil just has more character, I think, to it, and just the fact that it's not Citizen Kane, meaning it's not the most. This is the highest appraised movie. Like, you gotta watch this, is the greatest movie. So it's kind of a sleeper pick for his stuff. It's still, pretty popular, but I thought it was really good. The performances were great. That's my favorite Orson Welles performance for sure. That's just a That's such a good sleazy performance by him. Cinematography is obviously great. Orson Welles just picks the good DPs. I mean, what can I say? Constantly making bangers. I want to watch a lot more of his filmography, and maybe this year I will. Next up is Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. This came out in 1962, directed by Robert Aldrich. This was so good. When I heard about this movie and read about it, I thought it was just going to be kind of like Misery. And I think it'd be a good like companion piece to Misery, but it's very different. It's its own thing for sure. It's such a sad and dark movie. It was so good. Betty Davis and I mean everybody was great, but like just the performances from the main two just stood out so well. It was such a good. I thought it was more sad really than scary. I thought it was gonna be like this creepy horror movie thriller, and there's elements of that, but I definitely think it's more of a sad movie. Watching Jane Hudson dance around while the guy's playing the piano, and her face is just like, it's so sad. Like she's just such a broken soul and didn't have the right help, you know. And then she's like terrifying, and the next scene she'll do something super scary, and then all that sadness you felt is now turns into fear, and you kind of hate her. So by the end of it, great ending. It all ties things together. Very good movie. Yeah, it was super good. I watched it twice in a week. It was that good. Number 8. This is, I think, out of the top 10, this is the newest movie I'd watched. I watched this on Christmas Day. What a Christmas movie this was. This is the 1988 movie, The Vanishing. The original one, not the American one, made by the same guy apparently. But this is the original one, came out in the 80s, the French and I believe Dutch movie. It is cold out here. I'm freezing. The Vanishing. Oh my gosh. Wow. This is just one of my new favorite movies of all time. This is such an intense, not even intense really. It's just such a scary movie. It feels so real. It feels almost documentary. In its approach and how it's filmed, and everything's so subtle. Like the performances are so subtle, the music's so weird. This little just weird 80s music, but it adds some charm to it. And the ending is of course great. I love the performances, and wow, this is probably my new favorite. I guess it's a horror movie. I don't know if you count it as a horror movie. It's my new favorite horror, and if it's not, it's my new favorite thriller. It's so good. The Vanishing. Check it out. Number 7 is 2007's There'll Be Blood, directed by, obviously, Paul Thomas Anderson. This is his only movie I've seen. I do want to watch more of his work. This is obviously a really good movie. I was blown away with it. It was just so good. The performances. I feel like I'm just a broken record at this point. I love movies for, of course, good writing and directing and cinematography, but acting is so important to me in movies, and good performances just like steal like my heart. So obviously when you get Daniel Day-Lewis acting his heart out, this is so good. Wow. There'll Be Blood. I can't really add anything. Like it's great. Go watch it. Next up at number 6 is 1979 Stalker. This is the only Tarkovsky movie I've seen. I'm sorry I stuttered on his name there. Another movie, Sin, because he's like one of the guys, you know. But man, that was what a film. I want to watch it again. I split it up over 2 days just because it is a longer movie and a slow movie, but it's so impactful in the writing and the dialogue. Things people say, it's so it's very very philosophical in its approach. And I hope I don't sound too pretentious. That's the word I was looking for. Hopefully I don't sound too pretentious here, but it was very philosophical in its approach, and I felt that it reminded me a lot of like The Twilight Zone, and that's my favorite show. I love The Twilight Zone, and this kind of felt like an approach to. It felt like a movie version of that, where you have this like super the sci-fi element to the movie, but it's not really about that. You know, it's a movie that to me felt like it was about faith. And, mostly faith. That's how I felt. And doubt for sure. Yeah, Stalker is a great movie. You should go watch it. Number 5, I have Charlie Chaplin's City Lights. This came out in 1931. This is the only Chaplin film I've seen. You notice there's a lot of that on this list. Only first time movies I've seen of these directors, but hopefully I'll watch more of their stuff here. in the future. But City Lights is such a fun movie, very funny, and very emotional. Like, the ending got me pretty good, and I was not expecting a silent Charlie Chaplin movie to get me all emotional at the end, but it did. And Charlie Chaplin obviously was a genius, and you hear that a lot, but it's cool to finally see one of his movies and be like, okay, that's why people say that. Number 4 is The Godfather, like the movie that actually doesn't need an introduction whatsoever or really an explanation. I'd put it off for a long time. This is like everyone's like best movie ever, and I finally got around to see it, and I thought it was really good. It's The Godfather. Number 3, I have Otto Preminger's Anatomy of a Murder. I actually watched 3 Preminger movies this year. I watched Laura, Bunny Lake is Missing, and obviously this movie as well. This was my favorite of his, and I think his best. Bunny Lake is Missing is a weird movie that deserves its own discussion. That movie is just weird. Laura was good, but it felt a little bland by today's standards. And it reminded me a lot of Vertigo, which is just my favorite movie, top 3 of all time. And so it felt like Vertigo, but it just didn't get pushed as far as Vertigo had been pushed in its past. Or I guess Vertigo came out after. So Laura ran so Vertigo could fly kind of situation. But we're not here to talk about that. We're talking about Anatomy of a Murder. Jimmy Stewart, my favorite actor of all time, and one of my favorite people. He's so cool. I love him. He's so good in this. He plays a very not so Jimmy Stewart role, like how he is in Vertigo and other things. Rope, where he's not this happy-go-lucky kind of Barry, kind of guy. He's darker, and not as dark as he is in other movies. In Anatomy of a Murder, but man, his performance in this is good. Again, all the acting is great. The writing is so tight, the pacing so tight. It's like it's like almost 3 hours, and it just flies by. Everything is paced so well. It's so good. Best courtroom drama I watched this year by far. Which the other one I watched Juror Number 2 by Clint Eastwood, who's 94, I believe, and he made this movie, and that alone deserves its own merit. I thought it was a pretty good movie. No, is it getting too dark over here? Yeah, that's my bad. Hopefully that's not like ruined. Hopefully that wasn't too dark. But number 2, maybe even number 1, depending on the day, is Carol Reed's 1949 masterpiece, The Third Man. Wow. This movie, so I've watched it I think 3 times this year, or last year. Man, how many times have I said this year? Anytime I said that, I meant 2024. It's a new year, forgive me, please. But this movie, I watched it a few times last year. It was so good. The zither music obviously is a standout. Like, that's so weird, and it's such a weird little quirk, but it just makes it. And the darker tones of the story, the cinematography, all the performances, obviously, Orson Welles. I think Orson Welles' best movie that he's in, that I've seen. And it was just so good, dude. I said dude, like, dude. I love the ending. It's possibly my favorite movie ending. It's just so good. I love how long they hold out on shots. I love everything about it. There's no flaws. Perfect movie. The Third Man. See it in the theaters near you. And number 1, sometimes number 2, just depending on the day and how I feel about The Third Man, is the 1957 film Paths of Glory, directed by Stanley Kubrick. And this is by far my favorite movie I've seen of his. I haven't seen too many of his movies, but I have seen 2001, and I prefer this over 2001 by a lot. This is such an emotional movie. It's such a cynical movie. And the cinematography just feels so ahead of its time. Very much like The Third Man. Or there was another one on this list that I was like surprised. Touch of Evil and Bunny Lake is Missing. I mentioned that. Yeah, it had such a modern feel to it. But we're not here to talk about that movie again. The cinematography in this movie feels so modern. The performances are so... I don't know how many times I've said that. It's great. Acting is so good. And I love just the darkest, cynical feelings that come off it. And then the ending is just the closest thing to like a warm hug that you can get in a movie like this. It's not a happy ending, but it's just like more of a warm hug, where it's just like there can be some comforts before things get worse again. Just small things that you can take for granted, you know. Very good movie. Those are my top 10s. That was my top 10 of movies that I watched in 2024. It was a very good year for projects as well. I wanted to take a little minute to talk about some projects, and I might even move to a new spot because that's what YouTubers do. Watch, I'll do the little thing. The sun has left me and I can't feel my hands. I thought I'd wrap things up by talking about projects that I've worked on in the last year and just making stuff with friends, because that's really what I love doing, is making films and just art with the people I love. And my most frequent collaborators were my good friend Ryan Gardner, who has his own channel, and my good friend Isaac, another Isaac, who also has his channel. I'll link those down below. Here's what they look like. My good friends, I have made so much stuff with them this last year. With Ryan, he was the cinematographer, he was the DP on our film Could You Do Me a Favor, which I have to thank him and my good friend Devin and my dad for all being in that video and helping. And of course, my sister and my brother for taking some behind the scenes photos. And it wouldn't have been the same without their help. And it wouldn't have been done without their help. I wrote the script a while ago and just sat on it. And Ryan's like, let's do it, man. Like, you have this script, we should make something. I was like, that's a good idea. And so without them, we would have never made that. And it's my favorite film that we've done. My favorite film that I've directed so far on the channel, and it wouldn't have been done without them, so thank you guys for that. I love y'all very much. Of course, we also started a podcast on Ryan's channel called Remember the Moment, where him, me, and our buddy Ethan, we just talk about art and movies and whatnot. Now Ethan's of course gone off and gotten married and moved away, but that's been such a fun thing. We just kind of started it as a joke, and it turned into a whole thing. And it was super fun, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And of course, me and Ryan have met up countless times just to write or watch movies or hang out, and I appreciate your friendship to me, Ryan. If you're watching this, you've been a great friend, and I appreciate all you've done for me. And I love you guys, you and your wife. You guys are the best, and continue to make good stuff, sir. And of course, my friend Isaac, we have made a lot of stuff as well. I don't know if we've made more stuff together or not, but we started this whole series inspired by a game Isaac really likes to play called Escape from Tarkov. You might have heard of it if you're a little gaming guru. I've never played it. I don't have a computer. I have a Mac. I don't know if I can run it on a Mac. We started a little series called Escape from Tuscola, and it's just a little inspired series where we've just kind of gone around. And he has so many like props and costume stuff, and so he's gotten all dressed up and gotten his props and guns and stuff like that, and we've just gone and made a little post-apocalyptic series, you know. And we made a few in a planned series, and we just made one for a Tarkov contest, and that happened pretty quick. And Isaac was like, hey, like, we should just get on this. So I think we made something the next day. They posted this contest. The next day we went and made something, and it's my favorite project that we've done together. Super good. Isaac is so good about picking music, and has such a mind for editing, and he can think ahead for that stuff. And he's a really good writer as well. He has written a script for The Marked Room, which is a teaser that I've posted on my channel and he's posted on his. You might have seen it. And that is a big old short film that we are going to be making up in the upcoming months, you know, and that's going to hopefully come out in spring of 2025. I've signed so many NDAs I can't even talk about it. It's a super ambitious project, and I'm super excited to make it. Isaac, if you are watching this or your family's watching this, I love you guys. Thank you for all the times you let me come over and we've watched movies or just hung out or done stupid stuff. I appreciate it. So yeah, that's really all the projects that I've had going on last year. There's probably more stuff, but here's looking to a bright 2025 where we can get even more projects done. So thank you guys for watching this little rant and a ramble if you're still here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Farewell.